Hey, what's up, everybody? This is episode 2 of our real estate podcast. Unfortunately, we don't have a name yet, but this is still the pilot. And, we got more room to grow. We're getting feedback from you guys. And this is episode 2 again. So, the title of this episode is Startup Capital: How to Get It and Where to Find It. So, again, this podcast is primarily our real world experience, what we actually went through. And I think that adds value to our audience. So, getting right into it, I would say this is just my words, the primary way to do it is to raise capital is to save it, basically. Build savings into your budget. And I already know what people want to say. I got bills, or it's easier said than done. And pretty much what I would say to that is, you ultimately have to change your lifestyle. You got to be committed. You got to become obsessed. So I have two stories. I'll go into the first one, and then Vic can go into his, and then I'll go into my last one. But we have actual real world stories that we're trying to illustrate that it can be done. So um, pretty much my first story, pretty much like I mentioned in episode 1, when I got my job and moved to DC, um, I moved in with my cousin to save money. I didn't party or go out again to save money. And I saved every other paycheck for pretty much 3 years. Like, I really stacked my bread to the ceiling with aims of investing in real estate. So I pretty much sacrificed my time, but it was worth it because I mean it gave me the startup capital. You know, now I own over $1 million in real estate, and I kind of hesitate to say that because I mean, I don't want to come off as like bragging. It's not really my intention, but the purpose of this podcast is to show that, I mean, it can be done. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you really put your mind to it, you can turn nothing into something. It's kind of like the snowball effect. And it isn't rocket science either. Anybody can do it, like with the right education and the guidance. And again, that's like the purpose of this podcast. It's like we really trying to put y'all on game for real. You know what I'm saying? So that's like summarizes like my mentality, being committed to what I wanted to do, doing it by any means necessary. And that, for one, sacrificed my time, but again, it was worth it. And that's how I got my startup capital for my company. So, what about you, Vic?
I think for me, when I first got started, one of the things I did was I got my job. You graduate school, you get a job, and then you start making money. Then you start realizing, oh wow, after taxes and other expenses, I'm not making that much money.
Right.
So one of the things I did was I went and got a part-time job, and at the time it was at Circuit City, and so I figured what I would do is use that money as my play money. Then every thing I earned from my corporate job, I would save, either save, pay my primary bills, pay my expenses, dump a lot of it into my 401k, which is what I did. Right, that's what people tell you to do. So that's what I did. And after doing all of that, you're not you're not left with much at all. Um, so I think what I ended up doing after, speaking with some other people about how they manage their finances and things that they were doing to bring in passive income, I got to the point where I was like, well, why am I dumping all this money in my 401k? For what reason? Um, I couldn't think of any reason outside of people telling me to do it, but it didn't make sense for me to do it. And I was paying off student loans, and it made sense for me to do it if I could use that money to earn more money
Right.
to build wealth. So what I did was, I matched, I maxed it out to the max that I could get for the match, saved up enough that, to build a nest egg where I could, have 30, 40,000 in there. And I could say, hey, what would I do? I'll just borrow against it. A lot of people don't know they can do that. And or withdraw. I mean, either one. But I borrowed against it because I was making the income to pay it back.
Right.
I loaned against myself to do it. And that's how I got the down payment for my first property. And over the course of time, my part-time job paid that money back. And then as I kept getting promotions, increases, it made it easier to do. So, um, and I did it in an unconventional way. A lot of people won't touch their 401k, but I'm 10% return over 30 years doesn't make sense to me. When I could bring home more than that in a year for rental properties. So that's what I did.
So that state, man, it's, the typical return from, the stock market, Dow Jones, S&P. I mean, on the best year averages, it's probably like, what, 8 to 10%. You know what I'm saying? So I've seen numerous times, 20% return, 30% return annually on real estate investments. So if you can make that money annually, make that return annually, you can pay your 401k back and then still have the asset left over.
Right, absolutely. Which a lot of people don't get the economics behind that because
Right.
they're thinking, oh, retirement, retirement, retirement. But I'm like, well, if you sit down and really crunch the numbers,
And
it makes sense to spend your money this way.
right.
But a lot of people, they don't have the resources or the tools to do it or the knowledge, which is why we're doing this podcast.
Exactly. And I hate to say it, man, but I really don't believe in retirement funds, but that's a whole nother topic. And I know I'm going to raise a lot of alarms, but I can go toe to toe with the debate and why I don't believe in retirement funds. I believe in active investing, and I can beat the returns, of a company taking my retirement money. I think every single year, all until I can retire. So, that's
It just doesn't make sense. It sits there, right? I mean, you do get something, but I'm like, man, like do you know how much more you could earn if you spent that money on something else, like active investing?
yeah. So, I mean, hey, but that's another topic. But going into my final story, so the topic is raising capital, and with me, I kind of knew what I wanted to do going in, so I like to be kind of like realistic. So I would say, if you're already established and you want to get into real estate, then you're not going to have that opportunity to move in with family. So that's kind of like what my second story is about. It's real world experience, not with me, but one of my good friends. So, and he was already established. He was in an apartment where he was paying rent. He had student loans, car note, all that stuff. So a little different from my story, but I think it relates to the average person who wants to get into investing. So like I said, it was one of my good friends. And like we were saying before, you really have to make a distinct decision, or you really have to commit to changing your mentality, changing your paradigm, making a lifestyle shift. So he made that shift and he started tracking his expenses. And he made the goal to reduce his expenses by 50%. So he actively pursued that. And he's an engineer just like us. And so he did like data analysis on his spending habits. He 2018, like every single line item. And he put his expenses into like 9 different categories. And what's crazy is once he did his analysis, he was spending more money on alcohol than he was on his car note per month. So on that alone, like just tracking your expenses off the gate can bring a lot of insight into your spending habits, and you can manipulate your spending habits to incorporate saving money. So I think when he started, he was saving like $300 a month. And then towards the end of December 2018, he was saving like close to $900 a month. So that's an improvement right there. But the story doesn't stop there. He took it to the next level. Like he really committed to changing his lifestyle and increasing his cash flow every month. So he took it to the next level. I think at the time he over that time span, he was living in a 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment by himself. So he wanted to reduce his rent. I think he was paying like 900, close to $1,000 a month, and so he found this house sharing opportunity on Craigslist, like a roommate situation, and the cost of that was $450. So he moved from a 2-bedroom apartment, 2-bed, 2-bath apartment to having his own room in a house, and his roommate travels all the time, and it reduced his expense for his living expenses from about $1,000 to $450, and that included utilities and cable. So when he did that, he went from roughly $800, $900 a month savings to more than $1,600, $1,700 a month. So if you extrapolate that over a year, that's close to $20,000, right? So that's more than enough for a down payment on a rental property. So ultimately, it goes back, if you are serious about investing in real estate and you're trying to raise capital, you really have to make the decision to pretty much conquer your fear, conquer self-doubt, and develop like a can-do attitude. And if you develop that can-do attitude, man, you'll be able to identify opportunities. Your eyes will be open, you'll be looking. So and that's one story. That story I just said, the story that I did, and the story Vic did. It's all just identifying opportunities and seizing them. So I'm not sure if you had any extra nickels on that, Vic.
No, I mean, in terms of saving up the capital, I think that's it for me.
Yeah. So that's kind of like the first part, saving money. So let's just say that you have kids and you have expenses that you can't get rid of, like debt, things that are really bogging you down. I would say like the second way to raise capital is first is building your experience in real estate. And what I mean by that is find someone who's currently investing in real estate. Find a realtor. Talk to that realtor. The realtor works with real estate investors. Say, can you introduce me to an investor? And then once you meet that investor, you can offer your services for free. And most people be like, I'm not going to work for free, but I would say experience is more valuable than money. And once you build that experience with that investor, or you offer your services to that investor, you can market your experience. You can go to one of your people in your family, people who are affluent with extra capital to invest in real estate. They might not have the time, and you can offer your services and experience. You can say, well, I've been working with this investor for the past 2 years, and he's bought 3 or 4 properties, and I was with him every step of the way. I'm thinking about buying my first property, but I'm lacking the capital. I was hoping that we can partner together. You can provide the capital, and I can provide the experience, since you don't have that time. And you will be surprised. People be like, yeah, if you show them what was bought, where it is now, and you prove your experience, people wouldn't hesitate to fund your projects. And that's kind of like another way to invest in real estate without capital. So anything to add to that? Vic?
No, not at the moment.
Okay. But yeah, man, so I think we can end it at that. This is going to be a shorter episode, and again, this is the pilot, and we're trying to just talk about different topics from our perspective, to put the word out. Like I said before, put everybody on game on how to get into real estate investing. So this is the second episode. Our next episode is going to be a live interaction episode. So when you are viewing this, we will probably already have marketed and recorded the episode, but we're going to be soliciting questions from our respective audiences on IG and Facebook. So people are going to be submitting questions, and we're going to get them and answer them right on the spot. So from an investor point of view and from a realtor's point of view. So we're kind of excited about that. I'm excited. I don't know what people are going to be asking, but hey, if I don't know the answer, I'm going to let you know. But if I do know the answer, we will address it accordingly. So that's pretty much it, man. Quick episode, but useful and value added. So that being said, that's pretty much it, man. Episode 2 in the books.
In the books, yeah.
All right, you guys take it easy, and we will holler at the next episode. Peace.